Oh, happy alive. Happy August. I can't believe it's August. This is our first live of August. Hope you guys had a great long weekend. Thank you for those of you that tuned in to our $2,500 mortgage payment slash rent payment giveaway. We definitely jinxed it because we keep saying like, what if nobody's home? Or like, nobody's ever not been home. They're always home. And then of course, she was not home, but luckily somebody was home so they could video call her. So thank you for those of you that joined in to see Holly win it on Sunday. Again, it's going to continue throughout of 2021, the rest of 2021, if I could speak. I do not know if it'll go next year, but you still have September, October, November, December to get that in. And then at Christmas, we do $10,000 giveaway divided to 4 families. So there's still all of that, and then I guess we'll reassess what's happening next year. Again, happy Wednesday, and thank you for popping in. I'm going to go over my normal, which is go over real estate updates with you guys. I'm going to answer your questions and answers that have come in throughout the week, and I'm going to give some happy news. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to type it in the chat. Otherwise, I will just answer the ones that have come in throughout the week, okay? Hope you guys are all amazing and well, and I will start with the first question. So the first question comes from Irene and Clarence, and they are in Barrie. So Irene and Clarence asked, if so many homes are selling with no inspections, are we just supposed to pray it has no structural issues and is sound? Thank you, Irene and Clarence, for asking. That is a very good question. You're not alone in thinking that. So, sorry, I'm moving my chair back. I feel like I'm sitting too close. So if you're not comfortable, which I totally get, like you're not an electrician, you're not a structural engineer, you're not a plumber, you don't know what to look for in the windows, you don't know what to look for in the furnace or cracks in the foundation, you don't know if that's asbestos, you don't know if that's formaldehyde or so forth. I totally get that. So even if you do feel like you have to go in firm, no finance, no inspection, etc., no sale of your home, you could still get an inspection. So what normally people do, let's just say they list on a Thursday, they normally hold offers. So let's just say they hold offers till the next Thursday or a week and a half later or 2 weeks, etc. Then you could bring an inspector in that time. So normally inspection is 3 hours. So if they let you do an inspection for 3 hours, you could. But inspectors, because they don't want to be cut out of the deal and not make any money, because people are all offering firms, so many people, they're doing mini inspections. So often they will come with the buyer and they'll do a 1 hour inspection. So they'll check all the main things. They'll check the breaker. They'll check under the faucets and so forth, under the sinks. They'll make sure there's nothing that they can see, go around with their moisture meters, and basically they just do a fast forward version of their home inspection. So that way you feel comfortable putting a certain price down and not knowing, or not the unknown, like, oh, I need to do $30,000 for the basement repairs or something like that. So thank you for asking, and that is what people are doing if they don't feel comfortable going in conditionless. Obviously, it depends on the age of the home, because if it is a newer home, then a lot of people are like, oh, it's under Tarion for the first 7 years, or we know it's not going to need windows or furnace or roof, etc. So usually the newer the home is, the less they feel that they have to have an inspection anyways, okay? But thank you for asking. So if you don't know, if you don't watch the news, you probably don't know of any conflict between, I'm on the wrong one here, between, that is the wrong one too. Where am I here? Okay, I found it. Between Israel and Palestine. So there is a lady, and it was her 50th birthday, and she said, you know, instead of getting gifts for my 50th birthday, I want to give a gift. So she decided to give a gift of life and give a kidney. So she, because of the conflict between, you know, countries and so forth, and often, you know, violent conflict, not just, you know, online saying things, she decided that she wanted her kidney to go to somebody from there. So she eventually found a 3-year-old little boy, and she decided to give her kidney to him. And her dad was so touched by it, he said, okay, I will give somebody from Israel my kidney. And so he ended up picking a 25-year-old mother of 2 children. And whether it's overseas and this is happening or here, I think it's obviously super amazing that they're being so kind and, you know, thinking of the bigger picture and just 2 humans in general trying to help one another out. But I thought it was adorable that she gave her kidney to the 3-year-old and he gave his kidney, even though their countries are in so much turmoil. So the next question comes from Debbie and Peter and Barry. So Debbie and Peter and Barry said, we're considering moving to Windsor to be closer to our grandkids, but are afraid we'll never get back in the market if we leave. We have 2 children there and 1 in Lefroy, so might potentially come back to this area. Do you think it's silly to leave? Debbie and Peter, thank you for asking. I definitely agree. Hi guys, sorry, it's hard to see in there who's on here, but thank you for popping in. It's hard to say because I don't know Windsor's market, but for example, I was speaking with a friend the other day and she sent me some homes because her budget's $350. So obviously, for example, if somebody's budget's $350 in Barrie, they're pretty euchred, like even to get into a condo is almost impossible. But there she's like, oh, this one's $199, this one's $299, this one's $319, etc. The $199 was holding offers, but she was expecting it to go for about $320 or $350. So can you buy there way cheaper? Absolutely. And you could be maybe mortgage free there, depending on how much equity you obviously have here. So that could be good. But I don't know if their homes go up as much there, right? Like, let's just say ours are going to go up 32% each year for the next 4 years. Are theirs only going to go up 16 or 12 or whatever? I don't really know. So I do think it would be hard to get back into this market if you wanted to, but obviously it's way cheaper to live there. And if you stay there, just like so many people moving out east to PEI and Newfoundland and New Brunswick, etc., then often they have no mortgage or a really small mortgage. So if you want to keep your foot in the market here, potentially maybe you could keep your house and you could refinance it or remortgage it or what have you, and then use that equity to buy down there and then see if you like it down there, etc. If you don't, you could sell it and come back. I don't know, that's what I would do. Or you could even rent down there because I'm guessing rent would be cheaper, but thank you for asking. Okay, so for those that have never watched this, I jump around a lot. So I'm gonna do a couple more stories before I head into the real estate updates, okay? So Walmart is basically helping out their employees. So in the States, it hasn't happened here yet, but they have put $1 billion for the next 5 years. They're going to pay for all of their staff, if they want, not if they don't want, to go to school, 100% of their tuition, to college or university, as well as their books. And basically because debt in the States for people going to school is 1.7 trillion. So Walmart's saying, okay, we're going to do this for the next 5 years, etc. And there's already been 28,000 of their employees that have signed up for summer school. So I thought that was cool, an employer giving back to their staff. And so I have one more question before real estate. So Jen from Thornton. Let's see what she asked. Jen from Thornton says, my husband and I have broke up and I'd love to keep the kids in the same home, but I'm not sure if it is doable. Do you think if I turned my basement into 2 apartments, it would be hard to sell down the road? Thank you for asking, Jen, and I'm sorry to hear about that, but I get you're wanting to keep the kids in the same area. Lots of times people want to keep them in the same school district, etc., and obviously they're used to it. Maybe they were born there, etc. It is harder, to be honest, to sell a home with 2 basement apartments, but we've done it. We sold one last year in between Barrie and Angus that had 2 basement apartments. It was a bungalow. I forget how big it was. Let's just say 1,600 square feet, and had 2 800 square foot apartments downstairs. And the person that bought it, it was a multi-generational family. So it does exist. Do most people want that? No. And if they do, they usually want just, 1 apartment, not 2. But it absolutely exists. I have another friend who he has 2 basement apartments plus an apartment above the garage. So, I mean, it depends. It depends how big the family is. Are you limiting yourself? Yes. But it might be something that keeps you and the kids in the home for 5 years. So it might make sense for you. And then maybe down the road, you could turn the 1 apartment into keeping it for the upstairs, and that kitchen could be a wet bar, and it could just be like a rec room for the family if you don't need it anymore in the extra income. Hi, Margie. How are you? Okay. So I'm feeling the love at the Olympics as one more thing again before I get into real estate updates. So I don't know if you guys saw, but there was like the 2 high jumpers that tied. So the one fellow from Qatar, he asked if they could share it, and they said yes. So normally they do like another jump to see who wins, but they had tied in 2010, and the one had actually been at the other guy's wedding. They had obviously become friends. The one guy was from Italy, and so they shared the gold medal. So that was super sweet. And then in the 800 meter men's dash, the one fellow fell, and then the other fellow fell on top of him, and they helped each other up and they crossed the line together. So I thought that was super cute. And then in the swimming, they had the relay where it changed something, and one of the members had to sit out, one of the guys. and then they won the gold. So basically the one guy threw the gold to the his friend or teammate or what have you up in the stands, which I thought was super cute because obviously they were all a team effort to get there. So was feeling the love there. So now I'm going to get into real estate if you guys don't have any questions, okay? Okay. So lots of people ask me, is everybody moving north? Everybody from Toronto is moving north, everybody whatever, and not everybody's moving north. Obviously, some people are going to the outskirts, some people are going to Pickering, some people are going to PI, but some people are just going to like 905. So they're in 416, 647, etc., but now they go 905. So for example, because again, people just ask me like, what's the price difference? So for a condo, per square foot in Toronto, it's just over $1,276 per square foot in Toronto for a condo. And if somebody moved to 905, for example, so like Vaughan, Richmond Hill, Thornhill, etc., it's $1,007. So if they bought a 650 square foot condo, which is the average size condo in that area, which is teeny, then that'd be like a 1-bedroom, maybe den, and the den is really like a walk-in closet. So in Toronto, that would be not 827, 829. And in Vaughan, Thornhill, etc., that would average 654 and change. So if you're approved for 650, obviously it makes more sense to be there than if you're in Toronto, you can't afford the 829. But if you don't need not the highway access, but you don't mind the drive or what have you, and you can add that extra 40 minutes onto your drive every day, then, more bang for your buck if you go up to Barrie, or if you go further in any direction, basically away from the city. And what else? So there was the B20, which is the stress test that came in June 1st. So that was the one that switched it from 4.79 people being approved at to 5.25. And on average, that changed people's approval by 4.5% to 5%. Okay, so they, were approved for 800,000. They basically times it by 0.95, and then that's their new approval. Okay. And that was originally supposed to be only people putting down more than 20%, and then last minute they switched it to everybody. So it doesn't matter if you're putting down 5% or 40%, you still have to qualify at that higher 5.25 rate. What else? So immigration said basically, obviously immigration fuels real estate a lot. So they thought that 401,000 people would immigrate to Canada in 2021. They thought 411,000 2022 and 421,000 in 2023. But so far this year, like the 1 month, there was only 17,000, just because obviously COVID and so forth, and there's certain rules of who can come in. So they're guessing that there's going to be about 100,000. So they guessed 401,000. Now there's probably going to be about 100,000. Is that going to make real estate go down because they thought all these people would be here? And economists across the board are saying no, because before COVID, when immigration was going normal, we had no inventory. And since immigration hasn't been its regular full speed since COVID, as you guys know, the market's been going crazy. So we still, even without, people coming 400,000 a year or whatever, not counting them at all, we still have lack of inventory. We still have a high demand, and we still have super low, like record low interest rates. Okay, so that is still keeping it going. One thing that was down was the amount of homes that were sold in Simcoe County last month. So 12.4% less homes were sold in Simcoe County. And some people are like, why is it, sold, or why is it less, and is it down, and what have you? And it's not actually down. So the average sales price last year was $582, and this year was $803. So yes, over 12% less were sold, but they went up to $803 from $582. So they're still up, so don't worry. But the main reason economists are saying that it's down is because a lot of sellers have unrealistic expectations. So they've heard their neighbor, oh, my neighbor got 800 or whatever, 300,000 over asking, or my friend got, 17 offers, or my friend got 11 offers, or what have you. And then they randomly pick a number out of the sky, and they're like, I want a bidding war at this number, but they don't have anything to back that. So they don't have any comparable sales in the neighborhood. They don't have anything backing that. And then the banks are of course not going to back it. So just because the seller wants that price and thinks, okay, I can divide it amongst my kids, or I can go move here and live like a king or queen, etc., doesn't mean that the banks are going to finance that, and doesn't mean people's pockets are deep enough, nor are they silly enough to pay crazy prices. Okay. So unrealistic expectations of sellers has been what has changed and why we have less listings selling, because people are picking crazy astronomical prices thinking that they can actually get them. Okay. There was a new housing report that said that millennials and Gen Zs are trying to find alternative ways to buy. So they're saying, if they can afford to buy, that they rent out, a basement or one half of the house, etc. Or they're suggesting that they pool with friends or family members and buy together just to get them in the market in general, because otherwise they think that they'll have a really hard time. 42% of millennials and Gen Xers said that they don't think that they can get in the market, as opposed to 38% before COVID. Okay, so more people are saying they can't get into the market. A lot of people ask, is the bubble going to burst? Is the market going to collapse, etc.? I see all of these headlines. I see it on my phone. I see it on TV. I see it on the news, etc. And why do they keep, saying that? So basically, if we have news on TV, it always shows that the more drastic or crazy or tragic or whatever it is, the more attention it gets, which is basically the same in real estate. So if they say market is steadily increasing and blah, blah, it's not exciting to people. But if they're like, Canada's housing market's on fire and it's going to crumble and burn, or blah, blah, plummets to the ground. So yes, like I just said, 12.4% down. So some people are like, oh my God, 12.4% down. If I own $1 million house, I just lost this amount of money. But then if we look at it, and I showed it was like the 582 that's jumped to 803, it's not gone down 12.4%. Okay, so a lot of people just think they hear one thing and they don't hear the whole thing. And again, it's to catch people's eye and so forth with marketing and I forget what you call those, like not taglines, but you know what I'm saying. What else? They've been saying like, oh, what goes up must come down. But long before COVID, we had no inventory, and we continue to have no inventory. And as the borders open up, that'll just make it worse. And then with new construction, it has slowed things down. So they didn't obviously know what was going on with COVID. And then even with building, try getting drywall, try getting appliances, try getting steel. Everything's crazy backed up, which is just making the inventory less. So they're trying to change, like, oh, let's tear down these 6 homes and put 30 instead and stack clusters. But obviously it takes time to go through the process with the town, the city, etc., to change zoning. And obviously then, let's just say the sewers and so forth have to match it. There's a little town outside of Barrie, and they want all this development to happen, but the sewers don't make sense for it. So basically they said it'll be at least 5 to 8 years before they build any new homes, because the sewers can't handle the capacity of it. What else? Yeah, like even without immigration, it's still expected to be full speed ahead because of the lack of inventory and the low interest rates, okay? So Toronto's always super popular for foreign students and international immigration and so forth. And usually those people want to rent homes. So that obviously then pours into the rest of Ontario. And what else was I going to say? It's basically a supply and demand issue, not just immigration. If it was just immigration and we only had a quarter of the people coming, then sure, we would have a problem. But because it is also supply and demand here and has nothing like immigration adds, but even without immigration, we still have an issue, then that's why it's expected to still continue to rise, okay? What else? Once the borders reopen, then it's just going to make the demand higher. So then if you think you're frustrated now trying to buy a home, try once that happens. It's going to be harder. But yeah, it's just those 3 main things. So the lack of inventory, the amount of demand, and the historically low interest rates, okay? Hi, Dougie, how are you? What else were they saying? So they were saying like, one of the articles said no one's buying Toronto's in downtown Toronto, which is not true. They just like to get people's attention. So don't pay attention to everything you read unless you know the whole story. I forget what his actual job title is, Chief Marketing Analyst of the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board, thinks that 2021 will be the highest market year ever that has been recorded. So basically every single month and week, they're like doom and gloom about the market and crash this and crash that and the bubbles bursting, etc. Again, to get people's attention. And then every single week and month, it breaks records. So it's just doesn't make sense what they're saying. But again, it catches people's eye. Before, basically, some people have, fled Toronto due to COVID, etc. But even before COVID, they were leaving Toronto. So I moved up to Barrie because of the affordability. So it's not like, okay, people are, getting their second vaccine, etc. Everybody's going to go back, and then the bubble everywhere outside of Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal, etc. is going to burst because people were leaving before anyways. Because do you think many people want to buy a $1.35 million townhouse? No. Usually people want to buy a $400,000 townhouse or a $500,000 townhouse, okay? So it's not going to be second dose, everybody's going back, and then the market's crap. They're still going to leave for more affordability. Like I was saying, an 832,000 or whatever it was, 650 square foot condo in Toronto, and they can come up here, they can have a 3,000 square foot detached home with a big yard, an ensuite, a fully finished basement, etc. So it makes sense for them if they're willing to drive that little bit, or they can work from home, etc. And then usually they can often even change jobs because they have a lower payment every month. What else? There was one journalist that actually got interviewed by somebody else. So she was a journalist for over 40 years. And she said secretly, a lot of people are hoping that secretly journalists are hoping that the market crashes because it gives them a bigger story to cover and it gives them more info, which is sad. But anyways. And what else? I was going to random side note about pools. You know how a lot of places are like a year to two to get an in-ground pool. So what has been getting super popular is storage container pools. So the company started in BC, but they will ship to anywhere in Canada. And basically, like, you think of those things on trains or on big, huge shipping boats or whatever that come from China or wherever they come from, and they're turning those into pools. So it's much more cost effective, and you can get one in 4 to 5 months tops as opposed to waiting a year or two. So if you are sick of waiting for a pool, you could do that. And if you have a deep bank account, there is a new listing that just came up on Yonge Street. It is Yonge Street in Toronto, not Barrie. Has 6 bedrooms, 13 bathrooms, and at 16,000 square feet. It is $17.5 million, but it just came on today if you were curious about that. Okay, so what is my next question? Is from Todd in Innisfil. Let's see what Todd said. Todd said, my wife's always watching your lives, and she seems to always be making over rooms in our house. Just so I don't have to put a second mortgage on our house, can you please suggest cheap shopping places? I feel like she always pays thousands of dollars for things, but they look like they're maybe worth 100 or 150. Thank you, Todd, for writing in and not getting mad at me. She just needs to research more, to be honest. So for example, I bought a bunch of chairs. I call them bucket chairs. I don't really know what they're called. You can see them at like Home Sense and stuff, and they have like the strings in the back, and they have like the little hole in the bottom, and you kind of sink in it. I was looking at buying those the other day, and on Wayfair, they're basically $200 to $350 each. But if you go to Yisk, or however you say that word, that JYSK word, they're $69. Do you know what I mean? So you just have to know your prices. Same with like vanities. She could go on Wayfair. I'm not saying everything's more expensive on Wayfair because I've bought many things on Wayfair, but let's just say she goes and buys a vanity on Wayfair for $3,200 and she can get the same one at Home Hardware in Cookstown, for example, for $399. She just needs to maybe research a bit better before. Maybe she's like impulsive shopper and she just buys it like right away and she's not looking at pricing. That would be my only suggestion. I shop at Home Sense a lot. I shop at StruckTube a lot. I just don't like that StruckTube doesn't have stuff for you to take right then. I like to usually take it right then. I don't want to wait. But yeah, she just needs to research her numbers a bit more so she doesn't overspend. But thank you for not being super mad at me. What else? So in Denver, I'm switching subjects. In Denver, the police are doing things a bit different. So normally, obviously, if you're like missing a headlight or a brake light or what have you, they would pull you over and give you a ticket. I've gotten many tickets for no front plate. But now in Denver, they're actually giving you a free gift card for an automotive place. So an automotive place has donated like all these gift cards, And basically they know people are going through hard times in COVID, and they don't want people to have that extra added, bill or ticket, etc. It makes me think of Bridesmaids, when she couldn't like afford the ticket and he gave her, she didn't have her brake lights or whatever. So just saying, hey, instead of giving you a ticket for $100 or however much it is, here's the thing, go get it fixed for free. So I thought that was cute. That was in Denver. The next question is from Craig in Wasaga Beach. So Craig says, I know prices are crazy, but the casino is coming. Okay, so this is in Wasaga Beach again. And I'm afraid if I sell now, I will shoot myself in the foot, so to speak, from later's prices. Any suggestions? Thank you, Craig, for asking. For sure, prices, like, as we know, they're super elevated right now, and they've gone up a crazy amount from last year, which it cannot continue to go up that amount every single year. Is it still expected to go up? Yes. Is it going to jump like that craziness? No, it's impossible to keep doing that. It just doesn't make economical sense. And will the casino add? Absolutely. But it just depends where you go. So if you cash out of Wasaga now, you've still made money. But if you buy somewhere, for example, I don't know, Elliott Lake, but let's just say you buy an hour past Elliott Lake. Elliott Lake is already crazy far north, and you buy an hour past it, then is that price going to go up as much as if you had stayed in Wasaga? No. So it just depends. Are you taking your crazy amount of equity out now and rebuying in Wasaga or rebuying in a similar type market? Then it's fine, because now you just have more money to either buy multiple properties with, or put more equity down, or keep the same amount of equity down but like buy a boat or do something else with it. So it just depends. I wouldn't go to a different really far north market, just because then you will be mad when you come back and see that house you sold for 7 is now going for 1.1 or 1.2. But if you stay in some kind of another market that's similar, then I would be totally fine with that, because the gain that you got in this past year, you're not going to get again. So thank you for asking. What else do we have? This is not really happy news. This is just silly news, but I eat Doritos, so I thought I would share it. There was a 13-year-old girl in Australia, and she found like a puffy Dorito, and she posted it on her TikTok, and she asked, I guess her people, I don't know what you call them, how she should eat it. And over 6 million people viewed it. And some people were mentioning like, put it on eBay and blah, blah. So she put it on eBay for 99 cents, and it ended up going to $100,000, which is insane. Of course, Doritos heard about it, and they ended up giving her $20,000 saying for her entrepreneurship or whatever, which is just crazy. But anyways, it's the power of the internet. Next question is from Josh in Orangeville. So Josh said, with so many people struggling even to buy one home, how are you always buying homes and make it look so easy? Thank you, Josh, for asking. So I bought my first house 20 years ago. So I bought it 21 years ago, but I got possession 20 years ago. So it's not like I just bought my first house 3 years ago and it was so easy and I'm buying these nice homes, etc. It's been 20 years of buying homes, selling homes, making equity, flipping them, renovating them, etc. So hopefully that answers your question. But I didn't just like buy my first home and it was just a snap of the fingers, and it was so easy to have, the extra funds to put down on more expensive homes, or to buy, an investment property or 2 or 3 or 5 or 10, etc. So it just takes time to build it up. Okay. So it's not like an overnight success of real estate investing. It does take time. But thank you for asking. Oh yeah, and then I had more stuff on the Olympics because it's almost over, so might as well say about the Olympics. There was a brother and sister, and they are the first time ever a brother and sister to also both win a gold in the same day. So they won for judo. And then there was that lady from Austria. She's a 30-year-old math teacher, and she won the cycling. And she beat out the past champion and like the world title holder or whatever. And they both had sponsors. They both had what's the other thing called? Endorsements and a coach. And she didn't have either of that or any of that. So I thought that was super cool of this 30-year-old math teacher that just said she coached herself and figured it all out from math and physics and so forth. Anyways, so I hope you guys have a super short work week. I hope you all go after your dreams. You are not too hard on yourself if they don't turn out the way you think they should, and you keep going. Smile and be kind to one another. Thank you guys for popping in.